Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the TJ Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief and how it impacts our lives. We are here to provide hope, resources, and a community so no one feels alone in their grief. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the TJ Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief. I am TJ Jackson, and with me is my eldest brother, Taj Jackson.
What's up, T?
How are you, Taj?
Doing great.
We are live on this Wednesday, April 6th, 2022. We are here to talk about many different things that I think are very important that we all know. I will say this, we are live on Facebook and YouTube at the moment. You could be watching us on a replay. We go live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. So make sure to know that information in case you want to be with us and interact with us when we are live. You also may be listening to us on a podcast. Reminding everyone that we do all these shows get transferred to a podcast so that you guys can listen to them on your favorite podcast streaming platform, or podcast platform, I should say. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many others. Just want to make sure you guys know of all the way you can find the show. We would love any type of feedback, positive or negative, to make the show better. But if you have positive feedback, please make sure to like, subscribe, and to leave a review. It helps others find our content who may be needing it. Taj, I think that's pretty much the intro. But I guess I'll do the disclaimer as well. I'm going to read this because I'm on a different computer, so I don't have it just right there for me. But here's the disclaimer for the show. We are not licensed therapists. We are just ordinary people who've experienced loss in our lives. We've been impacted by it, and we have learned from it. And we like to share our opinions in an attempt to help you get through whatever it is you're going through, saying that if you need professional help, we urge you to seek it and to find it. Please do not just rely on us. Okay, so Taj, April 6th is today's date. April 1st, just 5 days ago, was Mom's birthday.
Yes.
Did you do anything or want to share anything about experiencing Mom's date, a Mom's special day on the birthday? And it's also 3T Day.
Yeah, and 3T Day. I had posted something. I mean, I had been staying away from social media for a little while and ignoring just posting in general, but did post something on Mom's birthday. Obviously, still a hard day in any sense of the word, but it's just, I don't know. It was interesting because it never. I mean, my words. I wrote a post and it was just. It's hard because it doesn't get, as we know, it doesn't get any easier. As the years go by. I mean, it's been. I said this last time around, but it's like Mom's been gone longer than she's been alive in my memory, and in terms of the years, of how much time I got to spend with her. And so it's more of that aspect of it. And then, as you know, having kids and stuff, it's just what they missed out on, I think, is the hard thing. Last month I celebrated my mother-in-law's birthday and stuff like that, but it's just like, and then Mom's was recently, but it's just like they don't have that other half, and I know Mom would have, as you know, been an amazing grandmother. It's that aspect of it that just is hard, because it's like they're missing something that is irreplaceable in that way.
Yeah, it's and Taj, I'm going to ask this question too. Have you, and I know we've talked about this many times, especially me and Turo, the aspect of having kids and then refilling the grief as a parent, for our kids who have lost a huge maternal grandparent figure. Has that, and I know you're aware of it because Terrell and I have mentioned that many times, but are you feeling that or experiencing that?
I think when it hit you guys, was when your kids started asking where's grandma, or or they would see other kids with grandparents, and or on both sides, and so Taylor's still young enough where she's not asking that question as much,
Hmm.
and I have a certain amount of pictures of mom, but I don't have a abundance of pictures of mom, so it's not like she sees her around everywhere in terms of
Yeah,
our house, or so it's just, yeah, I think it's going to be a conversation soon in that way, because Taylor's becoming more and more aware of relationships and who people are, constantly asking for Grandpa Tito.
that's
Not
amazing.
Papa T, Grandpa Tito, it's just funny.
That's how she refers to him, huh?
Yeah, that's how she
That's
refers
cute.
to him. It's just funny.
That's cute.
But yeah, so that was very cute. But she's been asking for Grandpa Tito, wow, for last week or something.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, so I mean, look, we this podcast has helped so much in terms of doing this in general. We've been armed with as many tools as we can be armed with, but as you guys know, it doesn't get any easier in the
Mm.
journey, and everyone's experience is different in that way. And so, and then not to only mention that, TJ, but then we had a week before, we had something that we didn't even
Yeah,
share, that
yeah.
we were going through. And do you
I
want to
think you
kind
should
of?
share it. Yeah, you want me to? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we had another parole hearing for the man who took our mother's life, and this was definitely a different experience because it was virtual. It was the first time we didn't drive, hours away to a prison to do this, to do the parole hearing and to watch it and to be part of it. And this one was a bit different because, like I said, it was virtual, so we didn't really have each other's
Mhm.
support because we are virtual. But obviously, I still got support from Franny, and I'm sure Taj did from his wife.
Yes.
So it was just a different thing. To make a long story short, though, his parole request was denied, so he is eligible for parole in another 3 years. Um, and I think it's so interesting, and I've shared this many times, I think, on here as well, that for me, I was getting to a place where, obviously nothing's bringing my mother back. And, I'm working on this forgiveness, and I know he's very up there in age. He's, I think, in his 80s.
Mhm.
And, he's a grandparent and all that stuff. So I was trying to find a place in my heart to be forgiving and to, um, I don't want to say support a release, but to be okay with the release. And
Yeah.
that's been something I've been working on over the years. And I think the last two prior parole hearings, I was making great grounds on that. But over the last 6 or 7 years, what I've seen from him and the way he's been still publicizing the scenario and painting himself as a victim, that's kind of slowly changed my position. And now it's to the point where am happy it was denied, because I don't think it's fair for him, who's a narcissistic person. I think everyone understands that, and that's been his biggest issue. But I think I'm happy and I'm relieved of the fact that we won't have to deal with all the news requests because he's saying something outlandish and talking about mom and our family, and have to go through that, because that's also an emotional battle, an emotional wearing thing that I didn't want to have to go through, and I don't want to have to go through. So I'm just sharing all that just to be
No,
perfectly
it's
open with where
great
I'm at.
because
Yeah.
it is, what people don't realize is that I think if he got out, he'd go straight to the press with a story, or maybe a Lifetime movie or something like that, and we'd have to relive that trauma all over again. And as you said, we 100%. I was getting to that point because of his age, that every parole hearing, I'm like, okay, he's at an age where the percentages they'll let him out because he's a lot older, and so he's
Hmm.
considered less of a threat. But I think he's someone that always his words get him in trouble in that way, and his lack of remorse gets him in trouble. And it's, I think Terrell mentioned it during the parole, but or was it you? But we're always like, there's always something new we find out about that night, that was very frustrating, because I feel like I've still never gotten the full picture of what
Hmm.
happened. but then it's like you get this one little nugget of like you wait 3 years to hear one other sentence that's like, oh, and so and or such and such and such, and it's like it's just a little piece of the puzzle, but it's like you know, I didn't even know that aspect of it, and so it's like it's frustrating because you dread the hearing, obviously, but then it's like you're kind of relieved that it goes in your favor. But at the and I we thank the parole board and all that stuff in general, but it's a little traumatic in a way and hard.
Yeah.
I hate to use the
Yeah.
word traumatic right now, but yeah, it's a little hard for in general. But yeah, I mean,
Well, with that said, I think we need to also send some love to the two women out there who helped and us with the whole situation, from informing us to
mhm.
just everything you've done for us. I don't know if I should be releasing the names of who that was, so um, I guess I probably won't for now. Err on the side of caution.
Yeah,
But if you are watching, you know who you are. We are very thankful to have you on our side and to have your support and
thank
helping us get through it. And very thankful. All right, Taj. Well, we aren't here to discuss that, but so it went a little longer than normal, the intro, but it was an important thing, and it relates to our mother, Dee Dee Jackson, who the whole foundation
yeah.
is built around. So it makes sense. So, but anyways, on today's episode of the Power of Love show, we are going to break down an article that is entitled 7 Ways to Treat Yourself with Kindness While Grieving. It's written by Eleanor Haley of What's Your Grief. What's Your Grief, by the way, is an incredible wealth of resources for grief content and offers many grief-related articles. You can find them by visiting their website, www.whatsyourgrief.com. That is WHATSYOURGRIEF.com. Or you can follow them on social media, which is at What's Your Grief. So without further ado, let's dive into this article to learn 7 ways to treat yourself with kindness while grieving. Now, the article, let's see. Practicing self-kindness is an art. It requires a person to identify what they need and to claim their right to have it. This may seem like a simple explanation, but it isn't simple in practice, especially when a person has to fight against years of implicit and explicit attitudes about what they should need, how they should be, and what they do and do not deserve. Knowing this, let's spend a little time today brainstorming some of the most basic ways that grieving people can be kind to themselves.
Mm.
Will these things be easy to do? No, not necessarily. Some will, some won't, but it's a place to start at the very least. And in the long run, being kind to yourself will mean different things to different people. So this is not a prescription. Once we are done reading this article together, we encourage you to consider what self-kindness means in the broader context of your life. And now for the 7 ways to treat yourself with kindness while grieving.
All right.
Yes, here we go. So Todd, number 1, it's an
Mhm.
important one, and one I think a lot of people can
Is this in
say.
order
This
of
is
like
in order.
importance? Okay.
I don't know importance, but at least on
We'll
how it was
we'll
written.
determine that after. Okay.
There you go. Number 1, Taj, is something I think a lot of people are guilty of, maybe subconsciously, subconsciously, yes, subconsciously, or without even knowing. That's what I'm trying to say, and that is, don't compare yourself. Super, super important. Do not compare yourself. First, try not to compare yourself to your expectations. In fact, it can be helpful to let go of your expectations about grief entirely. Throw things like grief stages, tasks, and timelines out the window, because individual grief is unique and unpredictable. We realize how scary it can be to look at grief as a complete unknown, but in doing so, you allow for a more flexible and acceptable understanding of your experiences. I think this is super important, Taj, because we are conditioned as people to think that there's a proper way to go through things or to do
Mhm.
things. And I, from my own experience, can support this. Grief comes in waves, it comes in different directions, it comes in different order, it just different emotions. It's completely a mind of its own. It's as if it's like this inner monster within you that can stretch out and like one of those Marvel characters who are dealing with something they don't have any control. Um, Grief can sometimes feel like that. And how do you fix that? How do you handle that? I think the most important thing to do is to understand it and to not be afraid of it and to accept it and to learn how to deal with it. Oftentimes, like I was saying, we like a prescription. We like something that tells us if this happens, then do this. But grief isn't necessarily always like that. So, with that said, do not compare yourself. Don't fall victim to the idea of comparing yourself to a friend or when they went through a similar situation or to someone you saw on TV or to someone on social media. Everyone is different. Everyone handles their situations different. And when we start comparing ourselves, that's when we can get really, hard on ourselves.
Mhm.
Taj, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you're 100% right. I think the article is 100% right in that way. One thing I would push back on, I would just say it's nice to have examples. Doesn't mean that you're part of that example or that your experience lines up with it, but it's nice to know that other people go through it as well. Like
Mm,
I don't think you should throw out every guideline or whatever. I think you should just basically use it as a template or example, but you might not fit into that template and be like, okay, well, I don't fit into that. Maybe let's try this template or this. But you're right. Don't compare. Like it's not a one size fit all. You
yeah.
know. So
And I'll say Miss Silent Siren, Tiffany says, gosh, I compare all the time. And first of all,
yeah,
this is what I love is that you acknowledge it. You are aware of it. That's more than half the battle, and because oftentimes we can't even realize we're doing it. So, Tiffany, my response would be at least you're realizing it, and it's not something that only you are doing. Most
yeah,
of us do it. So we just have to be very conscious of it and try not to compare because it's going to lend ourselves to being hard on ourselves
yeah.
while going through difficult times.
Which is what I did with Terrell in general, because Terrell, is obviously more emotional when it comes to certain things, and he was able to cry a lot with mom, about mom and stuff like that, especially when we did our show. And I took it as like, why am I not in that space? Why am I not able to express the way he did? I was a little not I was envious of him that he was able to, while he was looking at it as he wasn't being strong, and I was looking at the complete opposite, that I was a little too hard. And so that's I think there's and we're brothers in that way. So we've
Yeah.
gone through pretty much a similar experience. And so when as three brothers, you're going through different experiences of grief, then you should definitely not compare, because we were under the same roof pretty much in the same experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think we can try to learn from what others are going through when they're, with from their grief experiences, but we cannot and should not compare. It really helps no one. Um, it's just not a good thing to do. Don't compare your methods of coping because everyone copes with grief differently. And finally, don't compare your overall healing to your perception of how others are healing. Grief is a story without a true end, and everyone's ups and downs happen at different times and in different places. And then
Yeah,
finally, don't compare yourself to yourself. Oftentimes, when people try to assess how they're doing in grief, they make the mistake of comparing themselves to the person they were before the loss happened, who, by the way, you'll never be again, of course. And that's okay. We have to make sure that we don't fall victim to our past and who we were and the what position we were. These comparisons aren't fair because they discount all the progress you've made in your grief journey. If you still insist on comparing yourself to yourself in grief, we recommend the article comparing yourself to how you felt on day one of your grief. So not who you are, but how you felt and how you feel. I think that's all great stuff. All great stuff. Okay, so number 2 is accept that a wide range of emotional, physical, and cognitive experiences are normal in grief. Again, this goes back to those beliefs about how grief is supposed to be. In our society, in particular, people tend to think grief looks a certain way. Picture things like a sadness, talking about emotions, moving on after 1 year, and so on. Some of these expectations evolve from outright myths and misconceptions about grief. For example, grief timelines and the idea of moving on. Others simply reflect a limited understanding of grief, which is normal and understandable. The reality is, most people don't know how complex grief is until they've experienced it themselves. I can kind of relate with this, Taj. I had no idea grief would have all these turns and all these different experiences and emotions will come out at different times, at random times. But from years of experience, now I know that, and this is completely true. Anything, Taj, you want to add?
Not on this one. No.
Not on this one. Okay, number 3. Give distressing emotions and experience the time and attention they need. Uh, this one might seem counterintuitive to many. Focusing on distressing emotions, memories, and grief triggers may seem like self torture, not self kindness, and sometimes it is. When a person focuses on such experiences in chronic, self-blaming and self-shaming ways, it isn't helpful. On the other hand, it isn't helpful to run away from these thoughts and emotions either. Got to find that balance.
Yeah.
Think about it the same way you would think about coping with a serious physical illness or injury. It wouldn't help you to ignore the illness or injury. It wouldn't help you to stare at yourself in the mirror saying you're weak, stupid, or to blame. The only thing that would help is to acknowledge the pain and find ways to take care of yourself and heal. The pain of grief is just as worthy of your self-care, and your goals should be the same. To find constructive ways to heal where you can, and to manage the pain where you can't just yet. Where and when you can't just yet. Taj, what's your thoughts on this?
I agree. I agree with that. I mean, it's one of the things that I probably should have been better at in that way, because I just ignored it. I mean, I literally chose to not. I didn't want to say accept it because I knew mom was gone. When it happened, it wasn't that aspect of it, but I didn't. Whenever I would feel that I was in the pain or whatever, I would kind of do something else or change in that way. And I don't know. I've learned to live with that in a way. I don't think I've ever sat in that pain. Some people think I should. I don't think it would help in a way, because I've already come to terms with everything. So I don't know. I mean, I think people are just different in certain things, but yeah.
I think everyone's different. The one thing I do like from the article is that there is a balance point you have to try to find. You can't completely ignore it because it will come back around. And at the same time, you can't just sulk in it and live in it every day, because it will get to you. And I know, is my quality going down, Taj?
A little, yeah, but it's all right. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I guess, yeah, I'll use an analogy here. I think it's an example. It's like if you broke your leg. Like, I broke my leg. I should have fixed my leg, but instead of fixing it, I let it healed, but now it's healed wrong, but it's still healed. So now I could either re-break it, or I know how to live with that broken leg now, basically, in a way. So it's like I'm used to it, as opposed to, oh, you should go re-break it and it'll be better.
We'll see. No, I think no. Well, in the article, it talks about it to kind of like with the physical injury, you wouldn't just completely ignore it, and you wouldn't also just be defined by it. And I think that it's a very interesting and strong point. And your example with your leg is accentuates that and adds to it. So it makes complete sense to me. Number 4 of the 7 ways to treat yourself with kindness while grieving is ask for help. Ask for help and accept help, both parts. As simple as this may sound, we know asking for help is sometimes a tall order. Everything about it can be challenging. Identifying what you need, reaching out and asking for assistance, and then actually allowing the person to do whatever it is you asked for without feeling guilty, apologetic, weak, selfish, or burdensome. Here's the thing. You've experienced a major hardship, and now is the time for you to let others take care of you. Someday, when those people need taken care of, you will be there to return the favor. Also, though their offers may be ineffective, quite often when people say they want to help, they mean it. Try
Mhm.
your best to let them in. How are you with that, Taj? When people say or want to help you and ask how they can help you while you're grieving, how are you with accepting that and and then I'll ask you how are you with asking for help?
Accepting them, great. I was great with that. I did think about that, and when it came to the grief aspect of it, if people asked to, or wanted to help, I actually was very open to it, which is surprising because that's not what I would have thought I would be like in that way. But I was like looking back, when you were just talking, and I'm thinking back in terms of memory and stuff like that, and I was very appreciative and very open to getting help because I knew that like m- what the hole that was created by mom's passing or death was such a big hole that I knew that there's no way that I was gonna be able to do it alone.
Mm.
What about you?
In terms of accepting help,
Accepting that. Yeah.
I think I'm pretty good. I think it could be a lot better, to be honest, Taj.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like the feeling of owing someone, and 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 it's on me. It's not
It is
anyone
on.
else. It's on me. I'm very sensitive to that. So when someone asks for help, and 95, 99% of the times I know it's genuine and they want to help, I will shun it or turn it down in my own way because I feel like I'm being a burden to people as well.
Oh, you are that.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's tough. It's tough, but the one thing is like I'll use this example, Taj, and I said this in a live not too long ago, but when um when Royal had his accident, and I'll never forget, obviously, I think we were rehearsing at the time at Terrell's house, and Pops called me because Pops was watching Royal, and there was a major accident, and we ended up meeting him at the hospital, and we beat them to the hospital. And when they came in the ambulance, um, my father was holding Royal, who was I think 2 years old at the time, in the back of the ambulance, and Royal just had blood everywhere. And it was the hardest thing for me to see and watch and to deal with, that I genuinely and truthfully lost my train of thought. I couldn't even think. I was so shaken from what I had seen and experienced that it was super hard for me. And I remember vividly, and you know me, I don't have the best memory, but I remember being asked some important questions about what to do, and what road that the doctors I wanted the doctors to take. And I remember asking you, Taj, for help, saying, "Look, I can't think clearly. You have to make every decision, and I trust you, and just make whatever you think is the best thing. You have to decide for me because I couldn't think." I literally
Yeah,
couldn't think. And
you
I
were.
never had that experience since. I've had it one time in my life, and that was a time where I couldn't process words. It was very interesting. So, but go ahead, Taj. What did you want to share about that?
No, I mean, yeah, that night was very interesting, and I know you mentally were not. You were all over the place, which was um, interesting too, in a way. I remember driving to the hospital because we had to go to two different hospitals originally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also remember the hospital that we went to where it was emergency, and we got to that hospital. I'm not going to mention the hospital, even though they should be mentioned for what they did. But Royal's all covered in blood and whatever. And we go up to him, and there's basically a waiting line, and there's all these people that are just waiting, and this baby's dripping in blood, and there's people. And I looked at the people, like in terms of the ones that were waiting in line for their turn, and like some of them were like it had a broken leg, or they were in like a wheelchair with a broken leg, like a cast and whatever. And I'm like, so this baby that's bleeding right now, we have to wait in line for that and just can't be accepted in. And I was like, it was really kind of shocking in a way,
Mm.
humanity in
And
that.
You
You
know,
would
it's
think
interesting.
someone would have been like, "Take my spot," or whatever. Yeah, this baby needs it, and we didn't get that one, so we ended up leaving that hospital. And I don't even know if you know, it was a whirlwind night in that way, but we ended up leaving that hospital and going somewhere else.
Yeah, and Taj is funny because I don't even remember that at
I know
all.
you don't remember that.
I
Some of
don't.
your story wasn't correct either, so
Oh,
I think you
well,
filled in. We'll discuss it another day because I think
no.
you
Okay.
were very much as you should be. You're the father.
Yeah.
You were all over the place in that way. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I appreciate that, Taj.
yeah.
I appreciate that. And we should talk. I think it would be
We'll talk
cool.
off the thing, and then we'll maybe we'll bring it back up.
All right. I love it. Okay, so point number 5, the 7 ways to treat yourself with kindness while grieving is to focus on basic needs like breathing, sleeping, eating, connecting, and caring. And let me read some bit about this. More often than not, I'm on the wrong one. I'm sorry, you guys. I did exactly what I didn't want to do, and I
Sure
closed
did.
the wrong window on reading it. So I don't know, Taj. Let's start with your explanation, then or your thoughts on this, and then we'll go to the explanation.
Okay. So on what? On focus?
Focusing on, yeah, for obviously helping you get through a grieving time. What is focusing on basic needs like breathing, sleeping, eating, connecting, and
Oh,
caring? Yeah.
pff, I guess. I mean, I didn't, but that would definitely be helpful in that way. I mean, it seems like a simple thing, but I guess a lot of people forget and they don't eat or they don't sleep or whatever. Um, there's so much going on in your mind, so I can understand that in that way. I think you do have to take it one step at a time, no matter what it is. In that way,
Mhm.
it's a whirlwind of just things, and your brain is just spinning a mile away. Like you can't even believe it's true for 99%. You think it's a dream. You think you're going to wake up, any minute and all that stuff. So yeah, I can see that. I can see that it's just like focusing on the basics.
Well, I'm about to read from the article, but my take is before I do read, is that when you focus on basic needs like breathing, sleeping, eating, connecting, and caring, it slows life down and calibrates you to kind of slow things down and focus on basic human needs.
Mhm.
So that's just my take. Now let's see what the article says. The importance of meeting your basic needs is often overlooked when your entire world has been shattered to pieces. The scope of what you're dealing with is so enormous, who can be bothered to think about something like getting enough sleep? But if you are able to meet some of your basic needs, you'll be in a better position physically and emotionally to deal with your other more complex and nuanced stressors. Plus, in a world that now seems to lack rhyme or reason, taking care of your basic needs is often one of the few and or first things you can manage. Good point. So I think that's a actually very good point, because when you're dealing with a lot of grief, you're trying to get a handle on this new reality in your world, and if you cannot control or get a handle on anything, it adds to the idea or the feeling of being lost and not in control. And if you can focus and measure your ability to manage and handle things on basic things like breathing, sleeping, and eating, it makes it more successful and more, at least the feeling of we're in control of what's going on in our world. So I think this is actually a really cool idea on many fronts, and perhaps the one that is missed is the psychological impact, the positive psychological impact it can be to have a win by focusing on simple things.
Mhm. Nice.
uh, Point number 6 is give yourself a break. Whenever we talk about finding ways to cope with grief, we also advocate for finding ways to take a break. While many people think coping with life after loss is only about confronting and coping with difficult grief emotions, we believe that coping encapsulates anything that helps you feel better and gives you a boost of positive emotion. Look, sometimes you just need to give your brain, body, and frayed emotions a rest. It's super important. And it's funny because I feel like this one kind of lends itself to one a couple times ago where you ask for help. You know,
Mhm.
if you have an animal or have kids, or another obligation, or you have an need help with something at work. If you ask for help, then it allows yourself to have a break, and it allows yourself to mentally feel that break. So I think this one is can relate to asking for help. Anything, Mr. Jackson, you want to add to number 6? Give yourself a
No,
break.
give yourself a break is a good one in that way.
All right.
I've seen from my friend's point of view the super mom that does everything. If it's a husband that passes and the mom has to be strong for the kids and all that stuff, but then she's dealing with as well all the funeral arrangements and everything, and everything else that comes with it. And I'm sure that's the same. This is just my experience, but I'm sure that would be the same if it was the husband, and the wife had died and all that stuff. It's just like there's so much to do and deal with. So, you it's also good for people to be aware of that and be like, hey, I can help you with this or whatever, to give that person, as you said, a break where it's like, I got this. Take, not the day, whatever it is, like just take a break. And I got the kids for now, or I got the da 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 da, whatever it is. Just be aware of that too. That's how you can be helpful. Or I'll pick
Mm.
up the laundry, or I'll pick up the groceries or stuff like that.
Well said, Taj. Point number 7: love the person who died unapologetically. This is an important one, and this is the final uh, tip for 7 ways to treat yourself with kindness while grieving. More often than not, grieving people maintain a continued relationship with the person who died, but for varying reasons, they may feel they need to keep their ongoing bond private. Let's face it, society has been known to give grievers the side eye when they share the ways they stay connected with their deceased loved ones. What we know about grief is that an ongoing love and attachment is totally normal. So go ahead and talk about your loved ones as much as you want. Do all the little things that keep you close, and by all means, love them unapologetically. So, first, let's talk about that, Taj, because I think this is super important. I feel we're getting a little better, maybe not, but I think it's important that we do not judge people on ways they feel they are connected to a loved one. I don't think it's fair to do, and I don't think it's right to do. Let people love who they are missing and connect with that person however they feel it's warranted. As long as they're not hurting anyone, why should anyone else care? That's my take. Taj, anything you want to add?
No, I think I forgot which podcast we talked about this, and but yeah, we there is no expiration date for grief in that way, and even for talking about people. I think it was brought up or something like, "Oh, it's been so many years, get over it," or whatever it was, the thing. And I think, yeah, number 7 is very important, that you should be able to talk about the person, should be able to love the person, for as long as you need to, which is for me forever, in that way aspect of it. So it's like you're not going to get over the grief, you're going to live with the grief.
Yeah. Well, thank you for those words, Taj. And thank you for everyone. We're going to wrap up soon. So I'm going to just say a quick thank you for everyone who's watching and interacting. I'm seeing some great comments. I've started a couple. I didn't get to read all of them because it's just difficult, but I've started a couple and we're going to share those in a minute. But before we wrap up, don't forget that we're going to go have a link in the description box for this article. So if you need help, or you want to reread this article, or dissect it, you can go to www.whatsyourgrief.com, and there are not only this article, but there are many more articles. So we wanted to remind everyone that this is a great source for anyone who's going through this type of a situation. Please don't be a stranger. Check it out. We are not associated with it, but again, here at DDJF, and especially through the Power of Love show, we love to help any way we can, and to just let everyone know the resources that are out there.
Yep.
Now, with all that said, Taj, let's maybe get through some of these comments, because there are some good ones.
All right.
I'll say this. The first one is from Casey, who says, I am only me. There's no one else like me. Yes, when it comes to comparing, we don't want to compare ourselves. So be okay with knowing you are going through your situation the way you are supposed to be going through it. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone else.
Exactly.
Angie says it's a great article, has great information. It's great. We have a super chat from Balmy, My Life, My Hurdles, and My Survival, who says, Hey, Fufi and Taj, hope you all good. I realize I compare myself to others, and as a result, I tend to be criminally harsh on
Yes.
myself. Love y'all. Yes, yes, Bommy. You are not alone with this. Everyone, not everyone, but many people are going through it. Do that. We compare ourselves. Is this how we're supposed to be grieving? Why me? You know, that's another one. Is a lot of people feel like, why did it have to happen to me? Is something wrong with me? There's nothing beneficial when you do it. It's just making your road to healthy living much more difficult. We have another super chat from Lala Chan Network, who says, It's been 5 months now that my mom passed. It's a
Mm,
challenge. How emotional stress.
yeah.
Lala Chan, I will say this. First, our condolences to you and your family for what you are going through. It's never easy, regardless of age, regardless of how old you are. Like I said, we were younger. One of my best friends, if not my best friend, recently lost his mother a year ago, and is
Yeah.
still struggling. And
Mm,
and it's not, our situation, in my opinion, you can't say was any easier because we were young, or any more difficult because it was younger. Sure, there's more challenges, but that's not. It's not okay to to minimize someone else. So my voice to you, my words to you, is we're sending you love, condolences, and don't worry about where you're supposed to be on this grief journey. Don't think about really. Don't compare yourself with others. You are on your own path of healing, and it's going to be a long road, but it's going to be one that will get easier as time goes on. I truly feel that. And again, sending you love. This is another super chat from Cruz, who says, I feel like TJ, but family and friends need to know you need help. I had to learn how to ask for help. Very difficult. People were so kind. Yeah, Cruz, I always struggled with asking others for help. I've always struggled with that, and I can't say I've gotten better with it, but I can from being on the other side. Like I said, you just using my best friend as an example. I've reached out many times and I want to help, but I want to make sure um, I could be of help to others, and once you've been in that position, you can kind of work it backwards and realize people probably feel the same way about you and your grief. So please don't be afraid to ask for help, people. Now, with that said, you guys, there are two other comments that I want to highlight. Clarissa, who says, I know with my daughter passing away, I beat myself. One is wishing I was there to try and save her and bring her back to life. It's so hard. Clarissa, this breaks my heart. My heart is with you. I couldn't even imagine what you're going through.
Yeah.
Um, I'm kind of speechless, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
That's
one thing I do want to say is, you please do not blame yourself. No one is perfect. No one knows everything, and you have to live and find a way to get through life and to make it a positive life. And I truly believe you will, and are possibly already in process of doing that. But please do not beat yourself up. That's not fair to yourself, and no one wants that to happen to you.
yeah.
And it's not fair for yourself to do that.
I
Um,
I want to say something to Clarissa as
yeah,
well. I used to beat myself up with my mom's passing because I was the last one to talk to her. She called, basically letting us know that she was staying over that guy's house, that she wasn't going to be coming home. And for the longest time, I played the what if game. What if I would have told her, no, we need you here? What if I would have been not as quick to get off the phone because it was the middle of the night and I was awoken by the call. There's a lot of what ifs, and all you're doing is torturing yourself. And I always think, my mom wouldn't want that for me. in that way. She wouldn't want me second guessing, being miserable, being having regrets in that way. And it's helped me in that. I still do it every once in a while, but it's something that I had to live with for a long time, just thinking of all the different ways I could have changed the future or change, the past or whatever it was in that way. So yeah, I would just say that, Clarissa, I know it's not apples to apples, but I feel your pain, and please don't beat yourself up. It's I it's not healthy, and I think that. That's why you're commenting on it. But you have to forgive yourself, and that's what I did in that way, because you didn't, it's out of your hands in certain ways.
Gosh, thanks for sharing that, man. I think that's all well said. Important to say. Here's another post from Jade, who says, my husband recently passed away March 27th, 2022, from early onset Alzheimer's, dementia. I cared for him for 8 years. It's been tough dealing with his passing the last few days. Jade,
Mhm.
we are sending you condolences and love during this very difficult time in your life. We lost our grandmother through Alzheimer's just a couple years after losing our mother. So
Mhm.
it's, I think, in 96, maybe even earlier, maybe 95. Um, so we know how difficult that journey is. But again, I can't imagine it being your spouse and seeing and having to experience that. Um, Please know we are here for you, and sending our love and light and well wishes to you during this challenging time.
Yeah.
Lena has, we'll go to Deborah, who also says, my mom's sister passed away years ago. I still think about them. I mention them in conversation with my brothers. They don't usually continue the conversation about them. I feel sad when that occurs. I understand, Deborah, how difficult that could be, when you don't feel, when you don't. Let me say it this way: the one thing I would just suggest or try to ensure you of is that everyone grieves differently, and they may not want to talk about situations now, and maybe in the near future or in 5, 10, 15 years their position will change.
Mhm.
But everyone grieves differently, so we can't judge them on whether they love or all that stuff. Now, as
Yeah.
for, not saying you do, but just making sure that's the case. And to add to that, though, um, I maybe have a conversation with them. They obviously, your brothers obviously love you and will be there for you no matter what. So maybe just have a conversation. I think it could be a healing opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, it's without knowing the whole scenario. I mean, maybe the brothers don't want to be emotional or whatever, and are trying to be strong or whatever, and so choosing not to talk about it is what keeps them from not breaking down or whatever. In that way,
Hmm.
I have no idea. But yeah, I don't think it means that they don't care. I know she didn't say that, but I'm just saying, I think it's just as we had said many times, I think everyone just deals with it differently in that way. And so,
Yeah, well said. Okay, two more comments we're gonna highlight, Taj, and that's from Cruz, who says Taj is the eldest teddy bear, just a great big heart. The quiet tower of strength. Their mother raised some beautiful, strong men. Not easy at all. TJ's so strong as well. Now, I'll be honest. I didn't see the ending line, but I wanted to pick this one out because I'm always
well,
ribbing at Taj, and Taj is a giant teddy bear with a great
I
big
am
heart,
a giant teddy bear.
and I did like the the
Like,
the description of a quiet tower of strength. I think that's
oh,
very true. You do have a strong base,
like,
somewhere in there. All right, you guys, we're gonna end it. But first, before we do, we have to highlight Lena's super chat, who says, "Thank you both for doing this. Sending you both a lot of love, as I know it must be tough to go through what you do." Regarding your mother, as always, we are grateful for you both and this foundation. Lena, first of all, thank you for the super chat. What I will add is, you know, as we say every single show, this is we've went through it, and we like to share what we have learned and our opinions in an attempt to help you guys get through whatever situation you're going through. I can say to those who are experiencing grief in the recent months or years, a serious grief, that I truly feel, and I'd love to get some type of expert or someone who would contradict this or go against this, but I truly feel time, at least with the proper mindset, has a way of slowly healing and um, allowing you to reclaim your life in a way that is strong and meaningful. So I say that just for those of you out there who are just dealing with the recent tragedy or recent strong grief, that give yourself time. Don't beat yourself up. Find ways. It's not going to be easier. And like I think we said it before, it's like this up and down roller coaster of life. You're now on. So when you're feeling the weakest, it's usually when you're at the very top. But there will be a downtime where you can feel happy and feel that love again. And then I truly believe at the beginning, it's like everything's at the top, the scary moment. And then you're living up here, and then you go down, you come right back up, so most of your time spent in the top. But as time goes, it evens itself out, and now you're primarily just cruising down there, and then you only have to go through those escalations every so often. And again, you don't know when it's going to happen, but it's not as frequent. So I just wanted to shed some type of optimistic vibe to you all out there that are really going through it and struggling. Taj, anything else you want to say before we sign off for the day?
No, it's great talk. Been a good talk.
All right. So with that said, you guys, we are signing off. We want to thank all of you who did super chats. We want to thank everyone who joined, who interacted, who left comments. Again, for those who may be listening on a podcast, we suggest you check out a YouTube video or a Facebook video of us, and that way you can not only see it, but you can also read the comments on the side. And what we like to do on our YouTube channel is make sure the live chat is there for replays, so you can also see how others are dealing with it in real time of when we say it. All right, you guys, we are going to sign off. We will see you guys next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Please be safe. Much love and adios, everyone.